Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Museum Munchkins. I'm Mr. Nick, and today we are talking all about humpback whales. And we're going to start off by singing a whale song if you'd like to stand up on your feet. Now this song, we're going to pretend that we are whales, and we're going to be doing a couple different things in our song today. We're going to be swimming. So can we practice swimming? We can swim like this with our arms, and maybe we can swim like this. So we're going to be swimming, and we're going to be singing. Can you practice some singing? Very good. We're going to be spouting, which we're going to go do like this. We'll bring our hands together and make it go up like that, like a big fountain. And we're going to be breaching, which is like this. When whales jump, they go whoosh to one side and whoosh to the other side. So we're going to be swimming and singing and spouting and breaching. Are you ready? All right, so we're going to start off with swimming. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let me see some swimming whales. Very good. I am swimming, I am swimming, I am swimming in the sea. I'm a big whale and I'm swimming, I am swimming in the sea. Very good. Now let's sing. I am singing, I am singing, I am singing in the sea. I'm a big whale and I'm singing, I am singing in the sea. Very good. That's some great whale singing. When whales sing, they kind of make a woo sound. Very good. Now we're going to be spouting. Do you remember how to spout? With our hands going up like a big fountain. Are you ready? I am spouting, I am spouting, I am spouting in the sea. I'm a big whale and I'm spouting, I am spouting in the sea. Very good. And the last one, are you ready? We're going to be breaching. So jumping from side to side like this. Are you ready? I am breaching, I am breaching, I am breaching in the sea. I'm a big whale and I'm breaching, I am breaching in the sea. Very good. Let's do swimming one more time. Are you ready? I am swimming, I am swimming, I am swimming in the sea. I'm a big whale and I'm swimming, I am swimming in the sea. Very good. Awesome job being a whale today. I'm going to set my guitar down so we can talk all about humpback whales. All right. Have you ever seen a picture of a humpback whale before? Or maybe you've even been lucky enough to see a humpback whale in person. Humpback whales are one of the largest whales that we find on our planet, and we actually find them all over our globe in the oceans. So we find them here in the Pacific Ocean, and the Indian Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. We find them all over the place on our planet. And like I said, they're one of the largest species of whale. They can grow up to be up to 52 feet long and weigh up to 60,000 pounds. That's about the same size as 4 full-grown African elephants. That's really, really big. Now, they're one of the most easily recognizable whales on the planet, too, because they have a unique head shape, which is kind of different than other whales, and they have very, very long fins. So their front fins are very, very long. They can actually be up to 1/3 of the length of their body, which is way bigger than most other whales. Now, humpback whales are really playful animals that humans get to glimpse a lot because they live so close to the surface of the water. And they love to do lots of different things, like breaching. Do you remember when we breached and jumped out of the water? Well, humpback whales love to breach, and we're not exactly sure why they do that. So some scientists think that maybe it's to clean barnacles and other things that might be stuck to their bodies. It's to clean those off. But other scientists think that they might just be doing it for fun. So some animals like to play and have games and things that they do. Maybe that's one of the things that humpback whales love to do. And they also like I said, to sing. Do you like to sing? Well, humpback whales love to sing songs. And both the boy and girl humpback whales sing. But the sounds that we normally hear are humpback whales making, those loud, long songs with low rumbling things underneath them, rumbling sounds underneath them too. Those are the songs that the boy humpback whales like to sing, and they can be heard for a very, very long way away underwater. So they like to sing long, complex songs made from wild whale sounds like that. Can you try making a whale sound like that? We're going to start with our sound way up high with a. Can we make that sound? And then we're going to bring it down a little bit. So we're going to go almost like a sound of something falling down a hole in a cartoon or something like that. So they make loud sounds like that. And usually their songs last 10 to 20 minutes long. They sing for a long time. But some whales have been known to sing for hours and hours at a time. And again, just like when they breach, we're not exactly sure why whales sing. Maybe they sing to talk to other whales, or maybe they just sing for fun, or maybe they sing to signal to other whales about different things. We're not exactly sure why whales sing songs. And there are actually, humpback whales sing different songs depending on where they're from. That's a little bit like humans, right? So if we listen to traditional music from around the world, a traditional song from, say, Germany sounds very different than a traditional song from somewhere like Mexico or China. So just like humans from around the world sound different, humpback whales sound different depending on where they grew up in the world. So they will actually sing different songs, which is really interesting, I think. Now, like I said, they spend most of their time closer to the surface of the water, so they're a lot easier for humans to spot and to photograph, which makes them a really commonly photographed type of whale. Now, humpback whales also migrate back and forth from the cold water way up here at the top and the bottom of our planet, where they find their food, things like krill, to the warm tropical areas here closer to the center of our planet, called the equator. And migrate just means that they swim back and forth throughout the year. And they swim up to the colder waters to eat, and they swim down to the warmer waters, and that's where they have their babies. Now, humpback whales, when they eat, actually, that's a really interesting thing to talk about, because they do some really interesting things when they eat. So one of the things that they do is they will make a bubble net, which sounds really fun, doesn't it? And what that means is the whales will go underwater, and they swim around in a circle, puffing out bubbles of air from their blowhole on the top of their head. And that will make a big, as they swim in a circle, a big wall of bubbles all around their food. So their food gets kind of confused and doesn't know where to go because of all the bubbles. And then the whale will swim up through the middle with its big mouth open wide and grab a bunch of krill in its mouth. And then it uses special plates in their mouth called baleen to filter all of the water out of their mouth, but keep the krill inside their mouth. So their baleen are actually really interesting So they don't have teeth. They have these things called baleen, which is kind of like big plates covered in little tiny hairs that help to trap things inside their mouths. And they're really interesting. So they're made sort of the same sort of stuff like our hair and our fingernails are made of. Really interesting things that they have in their mouth. A really interesting way that they eat, I think. And they have, like I said, they have their babies in the warm waters down here near the equator. And humpback whales are very, very good parents. So their mothers will spend months without eating anything because their food that they find, that they eat, isn't found down near the equator. It's only found up in those cold waters. So when they go to the warmer waters to have their babies, the mothers can't eat for months and months at a time until their babies are strong enough to make the journey back up further north. And while they're growing, their babies, called calves, a baby whale is called a calf, the babies will drink 130 gallons of milk every single day. Can you imagine drinking that much milk on one day? So they need to drink all that milk from their mothers to grow really big and really strong. And humpback whales are really interesting animals, so intelligent and curious. They love to play and sing. And actually today, we have a story, a true story, about a humpback whale that made its way far up San Francisco Bay and actually needed a little bit of help getting back to the ocean. So let's go check out that true story. All right, today's story is Humphrey the Lost Whale, a true story. The story is by Wendy Takuda and Richard Hall, and illustrations by Hanako Wakiyama. Our story begins on a sunny day far out at sea. A pod of humpback whales was traveling south together for the winter. Humpback whales are magnificent creatures that sing beautiful songs to each other underwater. In the whole world, there are very few of them, so each one is quite special. And they are intelligent. Every winter they travel south. Every summer they head north, and they always know the way. But even whales can make mistakes. One whale, named Humphrey, made a big one. He turned away from his friends and wandered under the Golden Gate Bridge into San Francisco Bay. Everyone was surprised to see Humphrey in the bay. People don't get to see humpback whales very often because they usually stay in very deep waters. It was a special treat to see one so close to the city of San Francisco. Humphrey was a spectacular sight, as long as a city bus and as big as 7 elephants put together. He would come up to breathe, appearing as if by magic, and people would stop whatever they were doing to watch him. Then Humphrey did something that no whale had ever done. Instead of swimming back out to sea, he went the wrong way, up to Sacramento River. The big river became smaller and smaller as Humphrey traveled upstream. He was looking for the ocean, but it was clear Humphrey was lost. Hundreds of people came to see Humphrey in the river. They would stare out at the water, waiting for him to come up for air. Then with a big whoosh, his giant back would appear, and someone would shout, "There he is!" He was an amazing sight. But something was wrong. Whales are supposed to live in salt water of the ocean, not in the fresh water of rivers. A whale would die if it stayed in fresh water too long. Humphrey was in trouble. Everyone knew that Humphrey had to be turned back toward the ocean, but no one knew how to do that. After all, something like this had never happened before. The farther Humphrey went, the more worried everyone became that wondered whether he was getting anything to eat, whether he was getting sick, or whether he would beach himself in the river. One day, Humphrey squeezed under a tiny bridge. It was so small, no one could understand how he had done it. Now he was really in trouble. He was trapped. The river beyond the bridge was very shallow and narrow. It was so small, Humphrey could hardly turn around. There he was, a whale stuck in a tiny stream right in the middle of a farm field. It was hard to believe. Something had to be done to get him out of there fast. Humphrey looked sick. The scientists knew he would die if he didn't get back to the ocean. Time was running out. The people trying to save Humphrey would have to move fast. The scientists, Coast Guard officers, and many others got together to work out a plan to save him. They decided to bang long pipes together underwater and scare him back down the river. At the same time, they would play a recording that would broadcast underwater the sound of whales eating. Maybe Humphrey would be so hungry and lonely he would swim toward the sound. It worked! Humphrey turned around and started swimming back down the river. Everyone was relieved, but the danger wasn't over yet. When Humphrey arrived at the little bridge, he stopped. He was afraid to go under it. He couldn't find a space big enough to go through. People kept banging the pipes. Humphrey seemed flustered. What would he do? As the pipes kept clanging, Humphrey became angry. He rolled from side to side and thrashed his great tail. People stopped banging the pipes. But Humphrey's friends wouldn't give up. They knew they had to get him past the little bridge. If they didn't, he would die in the river. The people trying to save him decided to make the space under the bridge bigger. They brought in a huge crane and worked through the night to clear away some of the old pilings. Would Humphrey notice the difference? The next day, the people began banging the pipes together again. Clang, clang! The boats moved closer to Humphrey and to urge him on toward the bridge. This was his last chance. Everyone watched nervously. Humphrey bravely approached the bridge, but as he tried to swim under it, his head became lodged between the pilings. He frantically bobbed his head up and down and thrashed his tail to free himself. It was a terrible moment. The people trying to save Humphrey thought it might be the end. Humphrey was stuck. Suddenly, Humphrey lifted one fin way out of the water, almost touching the bridge. As he twisted his body, he broke free from the pilings and swam through to the other side. There was a shout from the banks of the river, then another and another, until everyone was cheering. "Hooray for Humphrey!" they shouted. "He made it! Humphrey the lost whale was finally on his way home." The whole flotilla of boats and the clanging of pipes behind him helped Humphrey find his way down the river. Finally, Humphrey arrived at San Francisco Bay. Humphrey spent one whole day happily swimming around the bay. He did tricks for the people gathered along the shore to see him one last time. They oohed when he slapped his tail. They ahed when he leapt into the air and belly flopped back into the water. Humphrey seemed to be saying goodbye and thank you to all his friends who had helped save his life. The people who had helped rescue Humphrey also felt grateful. Humphrey had taught them a lot about humpback whales. He had also become a good friend. Many times during his ordeal, Humphrey could have simply flicked his tail and overturned boats carrying the people who were trying to help him, but he never did. He seemed to understand that they were his friends. Finally, in the late afternoon fog, Humphrey swam under the Golden Gate Bridge and back out to sea. Humphrey the whale had made it. He was finally home. The end. All right, so we're now going to make a really fun, exciting whale watching craft. So for this activity, we're going to need a couple things. We're going to need a paper plate, some blue construction paper. We're going to need this whale printout that you can get off of our website. We're going to need a plastic bag. You could also use some saran wrap or some plastic wrap like that. And then I've also got some of this green raffia and some sand. Now you could just use paper or color these parts of our craft too, but I've got some sand and some raffia that's going to make it a little cooler. So the first thing we're going to do is take our paper plate, and I'm going to trace a circle on my paper with our paper plate. So we'll also need something to draw with, something to color with, some glue, and some scissors for this activity. So there we go. I've drawn my circle here, and now I'm going to cut out this circle out of my paper. So this is going to be the back of our whale watching window. So a window in a ship is called a porthole, and that's what we're going to be making today, some porthole whale watching viewers. So let's cut out this big circle here, and that's what we're gonna make our craft on. All right. So I've got my paper cut out. Now the first thing I'm going to do, so I have a little bit of time for it to dry, is I'm going to take some glue and put a little bit of glue here on the bottom of my paper. And then, this is a fun part, I'm going to use my finger to sort of smear that glue around just a little bit. And then I'll take my sand and I'm going to sprinkle that on my paper here, just like this. I can sort of shake it around a little bit and get it all over. So now, it's kind of like I have a little ocean floor on the bottom of my paper there. And if I smooth the glue out and I don't use very much, that's going to help it to dry a little bit faster. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do, while that's drying, we're going to let that dry for a minute, is I'm going to take my scissors and my paper plate. I'm going to bend my paper plate just a little bit so I can get a crease in there, so I can get a little slot in there for me to cut it with. And then this circle in the middle of my paper plate, I'm going to use my scissors to cut that part out. And that's going to be our little window. So this is going to be sort of like our little window into the ocean so we can watch the whales swimming around. Now my window is going to need some glass to protect me from the water. So I've got my circle there I cut out. And here's my circle here. My window's going to need some glass now though, and that's what I'm going to use this plastic bag for. Again, you could use some plastic wrap for this too. So we're going to cut a circle out of that plastic bag, just like this, and then I'm going to stick it to the inside of my little window here that I just cut out. I'm going to use some tape for that. Just going to put some tape all the way around the outside of this bag to hold it to the inside of my little window here. There we go. Maybe a couple more pieces. I want to go all the way around so I make sure that the plastic stays in there. And now I've got a little window here for me to watch the whales through. Perfect. Okay, so now my paper should be almost dry. But now I've got to add some whales to my paper. So I need to cut out these whales. And like I said, we've got this worksheet on our website, so you can go there and download it and print it off. Or if you don't have a printer at home, maybe you could try drawing your own picture of a whale before we put the window over the top of it. You could draw a picture of a whale right onto that blue paper. But if you have a printer at home and you want to print off these whales, you can go right to the kids page on our website and find them there. I'm just going to cut around their flippers here. Remember, humpback whales have those really long flippers, so these ones have these big giant flippers I've got to cut all the way around here. And down his body and tail. There we go. There's one whale. And I figured, because we had that lonely little whale in our story, I figured I would get 2 whales, give them a little friend to meet back in the ocean with. We'll cut this one out too here. And then we're going to color these whales and stick them into our ocean. So you can color these whales any sorts of colors that you want to. Humpback whales are usually sort of a bluish, dark gray color on the top and then a lighter color on the bottom of their bodies, which helps them to camouflage in the water a little bit, although it's really hard to camouflage yourself too much when you're 50 feet long, when you're as big as a humpback whale. But the lighter color on their stomachs, we'll see that a lot of times with lots of animals that live in the water, because then if you're swimming below them, the underside of their body looks like you're looking up at the sun, at the surface of the water. And if you're swimming above them, the darker color on the top looks like they blend in with the dark, deeper parts of the ocean underneath. So I've got a blue colored pencil here. I'm going to just color these guys up real quick so I can glue them into my ocean scene here. I'm going to do sort of a blue on the top and sort of a light yellowish color on the bottom, I think. So they're both the top and their bellies and the sides of their flippers. Perfect. All right, now I've got my 2 little whales here. I'm going to take my circle again. And again, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the whales. I don't need very much glue to help them stick. A little bit of glue on one whale here. And a little bit of glue on this whale here. And you could use a glue stick for this too, if you have a glue stick at home. There we go, perfect. Now I could just leave it like this, or I could draw some more fish or things swimming around the whales too. Or if I had some seashells at home that I wanted to make crafts with, I could glue some seashells to the bottom there too. I'm going to use some of my glue, and I'm going to glue on some of this raffia, which is kind of like this grass type material that we've got here in our craft bins. And that's going to make it look a little bit like seaweed. So I've got all these pieces here. Some of these pieces are really big though, so I'm going to take them and fold them up a couple times and cut them with my scissors so I don't use too much in one spot. There we go. And look at now that one big piece of raffia is a ton of little pieces. So I'm going to stick this into the little spots of glue that I stuck on my paper. And that glue, we don't need very much glue to hold this on either. It's really light. So I'm just going to stick these in the glue like this. And then I have one, then I'm going to let it dry, but I made one a little earlier that's been drying so I can hold it up and show you. And all the raffia doesn't fall out of the glue. So we can take a look. So we're going to set this one aside to dry. And I can show you this one that I made a little while ago. So you can see all of the seaweed and things around the whales. So see there now. So now I could too. I could go back in and put some shells, or I could put some fish or things in there. But now my porthole is just about ready for me to close it up. So I've got my whales, I've got my seaweed, I've got my sand, and now I've got my porthole cover, and I'm going to stick this on the top. Now I could glue this down. I could tape it down. I think I'm going to use a stapler just because that might go a little bit quicker. We'll put a couple staples around this to connect my circle to my porthole. And let's do one more. There we go. And now it's like I'm going underwater on the side of a ship, and I'm looking at the whales swimming around in the ocean around the ship. I'll hold it a little bit closer so you can see it a little bit better. So there's all sorts of different adventures. You could even make a whole bunch of different portholes like this with different ocean animals and line them all up along a wall and pretend like you're on a big boat and you're looking at the animals swimming around you underwater. Well, I hope you had a great time with us today learning all about humpback whales, and I hope that you join us for another Museum Munchkins next week.